For generations, one trilogy has created countless memories and inspired imaginations. And on September 12th, you and your family can return to a galaxy far, far away for a limited time only. Each 2-disc set includes the digitally restored and remastered movie. And as a special added value bonus, the original theatrical versions from 1977, 1980, and 1983.
On May 3rd, 2006, one day before May the 4th, an article appeared on StarWars.com. This article contained information that no one within the Star Wars community could have guessed or anticipated. It was announced that the original trilogy of Star Wars would once again be released on DVD later in 2006. However, this time, the original, unaltered versions of the movies would be included in the form of a bonus disc. The theatrical cuts were finally here. Over the years, a truly countless number of fans have told us that they would love to see and own the original versions that they remember experiencing in theaters, said Jim Ward, president of LucasArts and senior vice president of Lucasfilm. We returned to the Lucasfilm archives to search exhaustively for source material that could be presented on DVD. The fans had won. After thousands of signatures, letters, and hours of petitioning, Star Wars had returned to form. Articles were run by MTV and USA Today discussing the announcement, and even Robert Harris, the film preservation icon who saved Lawrence of Arabia, covered the announcement of the release in his blog. However, it didn't take long for the fine print to slowly but surely leak out of the woodworks. Many people, understandably, had questions. Why now? Why had George Lucas finally changed his mind? Was this a genuine moment of benevolence on the part of Lucasfilm, or were there some hidden motives at play? Well, as it turned out, in typical Lucas fashion, there was a catch. While this initial announcement by Lucasfilm may have been seen as a tip of the hat to the fans, upon closer inspection, the original announcement was deceitfully worded and contained some surprisingly anti-consumer comments. Within their article, Lucas stated that the 2006 DVD would contain the, quote, digitally remastered version of the movie, end quote, also known as the special edition, and, quote, as bonus material, the theatrical edition of the film, end quote. Notice how the words digitally remastered were only applied to the special edition and not the theatrical edition. Around this time, other studios had been capitalizing on the popularity of Laserdisc transfers and took advantage of this trend to deliver subpar DVDs of their own. With the unprecedented popularity that Laserdiscs had within the Star Wars community, it didn't take long for fans to begin fearing the worst. Was Lucasfilm set to only deliver an outdated master of the theatrical editions? Surely not. Lucasfilm had already been bombarded with countless letters, phone calls, and petitions. The original films had even been voted as the most wanted yet unreleased DVD of all time. Surely there was no way that they would incite even more backlash with a subpar release. But as the interviews continued, the unfortunate reality of the situation began to set in. In an interview with USA Today, the president of Lucasfilm at the time, Jim Ward, stated that, quote, it is state-of-the-art as of 1993, and that's not as good as state-of-the-art of 2006, end quote. And with this statement, any hopes that the fans had that the theatrical cuts were to be remastered were dashed to pieces. It turns out that 1993 just so happened to also be the same year when the definitive edition Laserdisc came out. Fans inevitably, and rather quickly, put two and two together and realized that the 2006 bonus DVD would likely be sourced from the then 13-year-old 1993 Laserdisc master. This master was created and stored on a type of digital VHS tape created by Sony. While this format was tape-based at the time of its production, it was considered one of the best ways to store broadcast and telescene video. D1 tapes had a maximum resolution of 720 by 480 interlaced video and worked with the Rec. 601 color space. While this may have sufficed for the CRT TVs of the 90s, in 2006, however, HD TVs and Rec. 709 color was becoming the fast-approaching and now ever-present standard. For reference, here is the Rec. 601 color space next to the Rec. 709 color space. Here, you can see just how much color information is present on the Rec 709 color space that isn't present in the Rec 601 color space. The video you are now watching was created in Rec 709. Almost all Blu-rays and non-HDR videos are created in Rec 709. While these tapes boasted of bit rates as high as 167 megabits per second, which rival even the average bit rates of modern 4K Blu-rays, the limited resolution and color space meant that many of the advantages made possible by this bit rate were unnoticeable. When the bonus DVDs were released, it didn't take long for fans to put them in their players and realize that their suspicions were indeed true. The 2006 bonus DVD was a simple and rather sloppy transfer from the 1993 Laserdisc master. Soon, a massive amount of angry letters reached Lucasfilm, and they were forced to release a press statement in order to address the controversy. Publicist Lynn Hale stated in part the following: "As many of you know, an enormous amount of effort was put into digitally restoring the negatives for the special editions. The negatives of the movies were permanently altered for the creation of the special editions, and existing prints of the first versions are in poor condition. So many fans have requested the original movies, we wanted to find a way to bring them to you. But since these movies do not represent George's artistic vision, we could not put the extraordinary time and resources into this project as we did with the special editions." The 1993 Laserdisc masters represented the best source for providing the original versions as DVD bonus material. Now, anyone who had been a part of the film community for even a little bit of time knew that this message had very little substance behind it and was only a few steps away from being an outright lie. Robert Harris himself laid into Lucasfilm within his blog and systematically picked apart and debunked this poor excuse of a corporate message. To begin with, while it was true that the original negatives of the films had decayed much faster than anyone at Lucasfilm had anticipated, which likely means that they can never be scanned again without incurring permanent damage, a 2K scan of the clean negatives was created by Fox prior to the creation of the special editions, as doing so would be necessary for the digital remastering of the films. This means that while the negatives cannot be scanned again, a high-definition scan does exist of the films. So the statement that the 1993 Laserdisc masters represented the best source for providing the original versions is simply untrue. Furthermore, it is widely believed that the original negatives were only spliced and cut by the remastering team, not destroyed. And it is also generally accepted that the removed segments were saved and stored in either Lucas's personal archives or by Fox themselves. It is believed that the special edition changes were simply spliced into the parts of the films that they replaced. While technically, yes, the original negatives no longer exist, the new special edition negatives likely consist of at least 80% of the original elements or more. Scanning the removed parts and reinserting them into the digital scan of the film would be trivial. Stating that remastering the theatrical editions would be as lengthy and expensive as creating the special editions was another falsehood. Nearly $15 million were spent on creating the special editions, but volunteer efforts, like those done by Team -1, were able to restore the entire original trilogy for an estimate of $30,000 or less. And this was all enabled by community donations and out-of-pocket spending on the volunteers' behalf. $30,000 is a drop out of the ocean of funds at Lucasfilm's disposal. Finally, the 1993 editions did not represent the best quality resources available to provide the original versions on DVD. After all, if the myth that Lucas had single-handedly recalled all theatrical prints and destroyed them himself is true, then how is it that the likes of Team -1 have been able to scan 13 different film-based prints of Star Wars alone? Where then did Lucasfilm source the original crawl for A New Hope on the bonus DVD? It had to be from a different source than the 1993 master, because even the Laserdiscs had the Episode 4 A New Hope title card. Robert Harris even offered to track down 35mm elements himself and provide them to Lucasfilm if they truly didn't have the sources. In truth, people were left with one main question after the release of the bonus DVDs. Why? Why not release the originals in standard quality? Why go through all the trouble of releasing a substandard product, lying to the public, and then incurring massive backlash if the originals could be delivered for what would be almost no loss to Lucasfilm? Unfortunately, no one really knows the exact answer, but two main leading theories do exist. Prior to the bonus DVDs, the lack of an official theatrical release had created an underground black market for bootlegging. Fans had the desire to watch the original cuts, and bootleggers were more than happy to oblige. Countless bootlegs ranging from all over the world appeared on eBay and other online shopping sites. Many people believe that Lucasfilm created what was essentially their own bootleg to shut down this underground trade. Because Lucasfilm had access to the master tapes, bootleggers couldn't compete with the quality of the bonus DVDs, and the underground market would slowly die out. Another theory states that George intentionally released the theatrical cuts in a poor quality so that they couldn't compete with the special editions. George had always seen the special editions as his own, as well as the completion of his original vision. By releasing an outdated master and lying to the gullible public, Lucas would convince them that the theatrical editions always looked poor, thereby making them believe that the special editions were superior, that he was always right, and that they would never need to ask for the originals again because they really did look horrible. Many people ended up believing his lies, and to this day still believe that these 2006 bonus DVDs are the best the originals have ever looked and are the only way to watch the theatrical cuts of Star Wars. Scalpers on eBay sell these discs for hundreds of dollars and bait unknowing fans into watching a subpar version of the original. By being sourced from an outdated master, an innumerable amount of issues were ported over from the 1993 tapes. First and foremost, the bonus DVDs were presented in a non-anamorphic 4x3 letterbox format. This means that the picture was both letterboxed and pillar-boxed, and therefore wouldn't take up the entirety of the screen on modern 16:9 widescreen TVs. Lucasfilm didn't even bother to make the film anamorphic, something that the fans had already figured out how to do with their own bootlegs. Eagle-eyed viewers also noticed that the bonus DVDs appeared to have considerably more grain than the 1993 Laserdiscs, leading some to believe that a layer of grain was added to make the films appear worse than they actually were. While it's unlikely that grain was retroactively added onto the film, the more likely explanation is that when viewed on a modern progressive display, grain is a lot easier to spot. Laserdiscs and CRTs had a much softer image than modern flat screens, meaning that grain, while technically present, wasn't as noticeable on these older releases. Lucas's obsession with image cleanliness meant that even the 1993 master of the film, at least the one used for the US Laserdiscs, was subject to digital tampering in the form of grain removal. While digital noise reduction, or DNR for short, is a common practice today, the technology to do so was still very primitive in 1993, which led to some major artifacting problems on the Laserdisc and, by extension, the bonus DVD, such as motion smearing. Frozen grain, and motion trailing. Gate weave and aliasing, artifacts of the telecine process and low-resolution nature of the DS1 tapes, were also uncorrected for the bonus DVD. Even the sound mix wasn't the original. The mix present on the 2006 DVD was the 1993 THX remix of the film, which had boosted bass tones and a mixture of sound effects from both the 1977 stereo and mono mixes, which resulted in a unique mix that hadn't been in any original run of the film. It was also delivered in a compressed Dolby Digital 2.0 format, whereas even the Laserdiscs had crystal clear, uncompressed, linear PCM audio. Regardless of these major shortcomings, the bonus DVD still represented what essentially was the best quality Laserdisc bootleg. Because of this, one of the leading theories as to why this DVD was even created was proven true. With the release of the bonus DVD, Laserdisc bootlegging saw a sharp decline. However, while bootlegging was on its way out, the next generation of fan preservations were in. Now that the Laserdiscs had been successfully transferred from the best quality master, it wasn't long before fans began experimenting with this disc to enhance its picture quality. By 2006, high-definition television sales had begun to increase, and these widescreen HD displays would soon become the norm for the average consumer. In the modern day, artificial intelligence can be found anywhere and used to do just about anything. AI can colorize black and white films, interpolate frames to increase the frame rate of videos, and even mimic the faces and voices of actors long gone. In the early 2010s, however, machine learning was barely in its infancy. The closest anyone had gotten was creating complex algorithms. These algorithms were written by fans to help enhance the picture quality of the bonus DVDs. Programs like FFmpeg and Virtual Dub 2 were used to apply filters to video, but it was the robust script-based program called AVI Synth that stole the show. AVI Synth allowed many more complex actions to be applied to video. This program is what allowed users to sharpen, upscale, and denoise the bonus DVDs in order to make them appear more acceptable on high-definition TVs. One of the more prolific examples of this method was Project Blue, an upscale project done by a group of users aptly named Team Blue. The Team Blue bonus DVD upscales were able to utilize scripts created by users Dark Jedi to upscale, sharpen, and denoise the bonus DVD from 480p to 720p HD. Team Blue was able to take the 8GB DVD and increase its quality more than twofold and turn it into a 23GB Blu-ray. For the time, these upscales were impressive in quality. Even today, aside from a clear presence of frozen grain, these upscales still look amazing, and after their initial release, they would be a main source used in Harmy's Despecialized edition. With the release of the bonus DVD in 2006 and the promise of upscaling technology on the horizon, Star Wars fan preservation was quickly evolving, and it wouldn't be long until all these forces would join together to deliver what many would consider to be the best fan preservation ever created.